Do I really need this drug plan? I'm not really taking that many drugs, or I'm not taking any drugs. Do I have to have this thing? What's going to happen to me if I let it go? And that's the question on many of your minds. With the rising costs of prescription plans these days, a lot of people are wondering how essential is it for having drug coverage. Now, historically speaking, I've always opposed the strategy of not having a drug plan for two reasons. Number one, we all know life is a surprise. Back in 1987, there were pills that you weren't taking that you took today. And if you decide to go without drug coverage in 2026, is this going to be the year where you're going to regret that, where somebody comes to you with some sort of impairment that can be managed but will never be cured and will require some medications that might be on the pricey side? That's a crystal ball question that's left to saints and philosophers. So we'll get to reason number two, which is the late enrollment penalty. And some of you know about this, but most of you don't know how it works. So I'm going to cover that here in this video. So the late enrollment penalty, that was a law that was engaged back in 2006. And essentially what it said was any Medicare beneficiary who chooses not to have an approved Part D drug plan when they were eligible to enroll in one could be subject to a penalty. Now, there are a couple exceptions to the rule. Most common things that I see people using to manage their prescription coverage outside of a Part D drug plan, or of course a Medicare Advantage plan which has drug coverage embedded into it most of the time, is A, VA or TRICARE coverage, B, some sort of an employer plan, or C, some sort of discount plan through a pharmacy or through a supermarket or online or GoodRx or something like that. So we'll cover those. So VA TRICARE absolutely is an exception to the late enrollment penalty. Medicare looks at that and calls it creditable coverage. And creditable coverage is insurance nerd speak for coverage that's as good as, if not better than, what a Medicare drug plan would have provided for you. So if you have a VA or TRICARE benefit in your life, you don't need to take a Part D drug plan if your sole concern is avoiding the late enrollment penalty. You can have both, that's not a problem, but you don't need one if you have VA coverage to avoid the LEP. Number two, if you're in some sort of an employer plan, while a vast majority of them do offer creditable coverage, you do need to check with your HR department or your benefits manager. If you're through a spouse's plan, have your spouse do it, because not all employer plans are creditable coverage. And if you are going to rely on the employer plan to get you out of the LEP, you want to be sure. It's an easy answer to find. You're not the first person to ask that question walking in that office. And then finally, discount websites, GoodRx, a program at a supermarket, not creditable coverage. So if you're relying on those programs to get your scripts at an affordable rate, not a problem, but it will not absolve you of the late enrollment penalty. So the difficulty that you have with the late enrollment penalty is that if you go without drug coverage, a lot of times people don't know that the penalty is building up. The LEP is like mold in a wall, and by the time you realize that it's there, it's too late. It's a big problem. So what I'm going to talk about is the late enrollment penalty and how it functions and how it would accrue if you were to skip drug coverage for 2026 or beyond. So the first thing you have to know in the calculation of the LEP is what the national base premium has been declared to be. For 2025, Social Security has determined that the national base premium is $36.78. Now, these figures are available online going all the way back to 2006, and if you study those figures, you'll see that the national base premium has historically been somewhere from the mid-20s to the mid-30s. What they do is they take the national base premium times 1%. Now, that number is a constant. Throughout all the years, it's always been 1%. And then they multiply that by however many months you went without approved coverage of some kind, whether it be Part D or some other creditable coverage. And in this example, you can see that the number is 4.413 in that purple box. Now, they don't deal with fractions of pennies. They round it to the nearest dime. So that number would round to $4.40. And in the white box, you can see how that would apply. If you went without coverage for a year, For 2027, if you took a new drug plan, and let's just pretend that that drug plan was $27.60, they would add the LEP to that monthly premium. So $26.70 plus $4.40 equals a total monthly premium of $31.10. So that would be the example if you went just 1 year without drug coverage. But once again, it's however many months that you go without drug coverage. So here's an example of what it would look like after 5 years. So we're going to pretend that the national base premium is the same. It won't be. It'll change probably wildly in 5 years. But the point is that we don't know what that number is. So 3678 times 1% times 5 years, which is 60 months, comes to 22,068, rounded to the nearest dime, 2210. And let's pretend in 2031, you're able to find a drug plan that has a monthly premium of $26.70. My personal prediction is finding a drug plan with a premium less than $30 in 2031 is going to be like looking for a purple squirrel, but what do I know? But $26.70 plus the LEP of $22.10 is a total monthly premium of $48.40. So at that point in time, you'll be paying close to $50 for drug coverage that everybody else in that plan is only paying $27 for. And here's the nastiest part about the late enrollment penalty. The late enrollment penalty follows you around for the rest of your life, forever and ever and ever. So once you accrue a late enrollment penalty, you are not getting rid of it. There are, however, 2 ways that the late enrollment penalty could be paid for you. And if your income and assets are on the lower side, this is where you might perk up. There are programs in various states for pharmacy assistants that will sometimes pay the late enrollment penalty. We have one here in the state of New Jersey called PAD. And then there is a nationally available program through the Social Security Administration called Extra Help, also known as the Low Income Subsidy, or us lazy insurance nerds refer to as LIS. And effectively, what Extra Help does is it also helps with drug plan premiums and copays, and if approved, it would absorb the LEP for you. Both of these programs have qualifications that look at very least at your income. LIS looks at your assets as well. And if your income and your assets are below those magic lines in the chart, you could qualify for these and then the LEP goes away. However, short of a government program paying the LEP for you, once the late enrollment penalty is there, it's there and you're not going to get rid of it. So the question on your mind might be, I'm not taking any drugs. I'm not taking a lot of drugs. This isn't something that I really need to rely on, meaning drug coverage. I might just take the late enrollment penalty. Now, I don't endorse any other philosophy if all we're talking about is the LEP, because it's really just a numbers game. And am I going to deal with this problem for a year or 5 years? And who can say such things? A lot of people are looking to the current administration to provide relief, but when those things come, they often come in the span of years. They don't usually hit very immediately if they hit. So when it comes to the numbers, you're going to have to be the judge. Now, I can help you figure out the math and understanding the late enrollment penalty and how it'll affect you. But the bottom line is that it's still ultimately your decision. And over the years, my interests have been beholden to you. So I'm going to do whatever I think is in your best interest. And ultimately, I'm going to do whatever you tell me to do. However, if I think you're making a serious mistake, as always, you can count on me to not shut up about it until I've made my point clear. But the bottom line is that the other half of this, the other half of whether or not to take a drug plan or let it go, comes back to that first Saints and Philosophers question: is this the year that you're going to encounter a problem in which you're going to wish that you didn't have the drug plan? And obviously, no one can say those things. If you don't have an aversion to the LEP and your only concern is, can I gamble and get lucky? My answer to that is going to be, I'm not much of a gambler, and I don't think you should be either. But the bottom line is that you've got to do what's best for you. Hopefully this video helps you to understand the LEP and what would happen if you were to forego a drug plan now or any time in the future. As always, any questions, please reach out. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned. See ya.